I've never been good at sleeping in public. I'm the kind of person who will stay awake through an entire overnight bus ride because I'm too worried about leaning on someone or snoring. But that day was different. I was exhausted. Being a single mom means there's no off switch. My son, Liam, is 6 years old, full of energy, questions, and a knack for making messes just as I finish cleaning. That morning, I had been up since 4 a.m., making sure we were packed for our trip. We were flying to visit my sister in another state. It would be the first time in 2 years we'd see her. By the time we got to the airport, Liam was bouncing with excitement while I was running purely on caffeine and hope. I remember looking at my ticket and feeling that small relief, the one when you realize your seat isn't in the middle. Window seat, perfect. When I got to my row, there was already a man sitting in the aisle seat. Tall, broad shoulders, neat haircut. His uniform caught my attention instantly, dark navy with shiny pins on the collar. He was clearly a senior military officer. He looked important. The kind of person who probably had no patience for noisy kids or tired moms. I smiled politely as I slid into my seat, helping Liam into the middle. "Morning," I said softly. He nodded back, his voice deep but kind. "Morning." The flight took off smoothly. Liam quickly got absorbed in the in-flight cartoons, his little headphones on. I remember closing my eyes for just a second, telling myself I'd rest them while he was distracted. That second turned into something else entirely. When I woke up, the first thing I noticed was warmth, steady, comforting warmth against my cheek. My brain took a few seconds to catch up. I realized I was leaning on someone's shoulder. Not just anyone's shoulder, his shoulder. The senior officer's. Mortified, I sat up instantly. "Oh my God. I'm so sorry," I blurted out, my face burning. He turned his head toward me, and I expected him to look annoyed. But instead, there was this calm, almost amused expression on his face. "It's all right," he said gently. "You looked like you needed the rest." I stammered. "I didn't mean to. I never fall asleep like that." He chuckled. "And something about that eased the knot in my chest. It's fine. My wife used to do the same thing on flights. I'm used to it." There was a pause, and then he glanced at Liam, who was still deep in his cartoons. "You've got your hands full," he said, almost like he knew. That's when I felt my throat tighten. I didn't usually open up to strangers, but something about his voice, it was like he wasn't just making small talk. He was seeing me. "I'm a single mom," I admitted quietly. "It's just a lot sometimes." Today was an early start, and I guess I didn't realize how tired I was. He nodded slowly, looking thoughtful. "I was raised by a single mom," he said. "I know it's not easy." That hit me. I blinked, unsure how to respond. Before I could say anything, the flight attendant came by with drinks. The officer ordered a coffee, then looked at me and said, "You should have one too, my treat." I smiled, a little embarrassed, but accepted. For the next hour, we talked quietly, while Liam played. He told me he had served overseas for years, that he'd missed a lot of his own kids' milestones. He said his mother had been his anchor growing up. The way he spoke about her, it made me think of all the nights I stayed up sewing Liam's school costumes or saving coins for his birthday gift. "You remind me of her," he said at one point, and I swear my eyes stung. Halfway through the flight, Liam got tired and started leaning against me. But then, without a word, the officer reached into his bag and pulled out a small coloring book and crayons. "For him," he said with a shrug. "Bought it at the airport in case I sat next to a restless kid. You'd be surprised how often it happens." I couldn't believe it. This man, who I'd assumed would be annoyed by us, had been nothing but kind. When the captain announced we were beginning our descent, I felt this strange mix of gratitude and sadness. I didn't even know his name. As we landed and people started getting their bags, He finally introduced himself Colonel James Carter. He shook my hand firmly, then crouched down to talk to Liam. "Take care of your mom, all right?" he said, with a smile. Liam grinned and nodded before we parted ways at baggage claim. He handed me a small card. "If you ever need anything," he said. "My mother always told me help the people who remind you of where you came from." I still have that card in my wallet. We've never used it, but I look at it sometimes on the hard days. When I feel invisible, it reminds me that kindness can come from the most unexpected places, and that even a small act like letting a tired stranger sleep on your shoulder can mean more than you realize. That flight didn't just get us to my sister's house. It gave me something else, a reminder that there are people in the world who see you, even when you think you're blending into the background. And every time I think back to that moment, I remember the quiet strength in his voice when he said, "You looked like you needed the rest," because he was right. I did, more than I even knew.